and welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Monday, March 5th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain, and many of the stories we put out here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com, so go there and feast on the news. Fights are underway between groups proposing at least 22 new casinos in Michigan and opponents who are trying to protect the business of existing gambling halls or simply don't want to see any more casinos set up in their state. The Detroit Free Press reports that it has reviewed confidential documents on proposals for opening new casinos besides the three now operating in Detroit and others chartered by Indian groups around Michigan. 4 tribes are working to expand off-reservation gambling, while 2 investor groups are seeking to amend the Michigan Constitution to allow more casinos. There are 4 proposals for casinos in Romulus and 2 each in Detroit and Port Huron. It's like fantasy land, said Michigan State University law professor Matthew Fletcher, a specialist in travel law. I really don't expect people are willing to have that many more casinos in lower Michigan. American Indian Movement co-founder Dennis Banks gave a presentation March 1st at New Mexico State University while walking across the United States on behalf of convicted murderer Leonard Peltier. Banks, the continuing subject of grand jury inquiries and federal investigators looking into the 1973 murder of black civil rights worker Perry Ray Robinson Jr. inside Wounded Knee, and his then-girlfriend Anna Mae Pictou Aquash in 1975, both killed because Banks and other AIM leaders alleged they were informants, spoke at the NMSU Corbett Center Auditorium after a screening of A Good Day to Die, a documentary based on his life. Some member of AIM's inner circle claimed Banks gave the final go-ahead for both those murders of Aquash and Robinson. A northern New York man has pled guilty to federal drug charges stemming from his attempt to elude U.S. Border Patrol agents after smuggling 240 pounds of marijuana across the Canadian border. The Watertown Daily News reports that 31-year-old Alan Forget pled guilty last week in federal court in Plattsburgh to conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute more than 100 kilograms of marijuana. Prosecutors say Border Patrol agents tried to keep Forget's pickup truck after he left the St. Regis Mohawk Reservation on the U.S.-Canadian border in September of 2010. He tried to elude capture, but his truck crashed into a field. Forget faces up to 40 years in prison and up to $5 million in fines when he's sentenced July 12th. Officials have identified 2 people who died in a house fire in South Dakota city of Fort Thompson last week. The Daily Republic newspaper reports that 29-year-old Austin Hawk Sr. and 4-year-old Chrisley Hawk were killed in the fire. Crow Creek Reservation authorities are continuing to investigate that fire. Community organizations that do work to reduce obesity and improve health care for Native Hawaiians will get the bulk of a $2.4 million in grant money from the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. The Office of Hawaiian Affairs rolled out a new priority list this week for the grant money that community groups across the state can apply for this year. Employment services for low-income Native Hawaiians and transitional housing for Native Hawaiians are also included on that priority list. OHA Chairwoman Celeste Machado says the focus is on supporting programs that are directly aligned with the office's struggle for improving conditions in the Native Hawaiian community. A second man has been sentenced to prison for his role in the arson and burglary of a church on the Wind River Indian Reservation last year. 24-year-old Lamar Dunn was sentenced last week to 4 years and 5 months in prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. Co-defendant Norman Ybarra received the same prison term last week. Both are Northern Arapaho tribal members. Federal prosecutors said that the 2 must pay $223,000 in restitution as well. They were accused in the arson and burglary of the Arapaho Baptist Church last September. Wisconsin Republicans unveiled more revisions to a contentious mining bill that would reform the state's iron mining laws today, March 5th, but a key GOP holdout says he still can't support that measure. The co-chairs of the Legislative Budget Committee, Representative Robin Voss R. Burlington, the head of Wisconsin's arm of the American Legislative Exchange Council, or ALEC, funded by the Koch brothers, and Senator Alberta Darling R. River Falls released what they said were the main points of a compromise bill about a half hour before the committee convened to vote on the measure. Committee approval would clear the way for a bill or a full vote in the Senate, perhaps as early as tomorrow morning, Tuesday, March 6th. The meeting promised to drag on for hours as legislators complained they didn't understand the changes in the bill that were offered minutes before the meeting was convened, and people in the audience heckled Voss and Darling, calling them crooks. It made for great political theater, but ultimately could amount to nothing. Senate Republicans hold a razor-thin 17-16 majority, and Senator Dale Schultz, a moderate Republican from Richland Center, has said he can't vote for the measure. On March 5th, he rejected the compromise, saying it makes a bad idea worse. Florida-based Gogebic Taconite wants to dig a huge open-pit iron strip mine in the Pinocchio Hills just south of Lake Superior that would impact the treaty reserve resources of the area Ojibwe tribes. And don't forget to take a look at our another little special there. It's called Scott Walker's Batman. That's on YouTube through the Scott Bayless account there, or at IndianCountryTV.com in a live stream. Scott Walker's Batman, some interesting entertainment.
Don't touch it. It's not. We haven't touched the truck. You're not going to touch that. Okay? We will call the police if you touch it.
It's a truck. It's a truck.
Call the police and have them come down here if you want to take it down.
Get that. Delete that, please.
I'm not going to delete anything. Are you kidding me? Look at this. This guy's got a bat. He's going to hit me because I got a camera on him. Cute, dude.
I see that on YouTube.
Cute, dude. You will see it on YouTube. Okay? Put your name to it. Why don't you tell them who you are?
And that's going to be another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to say miigwech for joining with us, and come back again and again.